This, ladies and gentlemen, is football.
Hello and welcome back to Total A-Leagues, our first show back after a few weeks off over Christmas and New Year's. Hope you had a good one. I did. I'm Vince Rugari. Tommy Oar, did you?
I did. Busy one, lots of games on. But
Arrival as well, mate?
I did.
Life's changed a bit?
Has. Not much sleep going on in my house, but it's a lot of football to watch, so it's been fine.
Very good, mate. Very good. We've missed a bit since the last time I was sitting in this chair and Daniel McBreen was over there. We're basically going to rip through a few of the things, I guess, that have happened in the league at the moment, bring you and ourselves a little bit up to speed as well, and talk about possibly, we'll debate this later, the best goal in A-League history, maybe, from Western United to win a match. Melbourne Victory, Sydney FC got dramas as well. Always plenty happening in the A-League. But to start with, we'll have our first guest of the year, Tommy. We have one of the most informed players in the A-League at the moment on the line with us, Macarthur FC star Jed Drew. Jed, how are you, mate? Thanks for joining us.
Cheers, thanks for having me.
Before we got on to your personal form, mate, we've got to talk a little bit about what happened on Monday night against Adelaide United, a heartbreaker for you guys to lose 2-1 the way you did. What was your assessment of the game and where did it go wrong for you guys?
Yeah, obviously it's disappointing. It seems to be the story of our season though, very late goals and just can't seem to keep a lead when we go ahead. We did all the hard work to go ahead and it's just about keeping the lead. We just got to close out our games a bit better, but that just comes with more experience. We're still a young team and we have a lot of potential to do well in the league this year. It's just about cleaning up those little areas the last 10 minutes of games and seeing it out.
Man, on a personal level, obviously 5 goals, 5 assists so far this season. You're having a real breakout season. I love watching you play. You're so direct, so positive, taking players on. What's been the secret to your success so far this season?
Yeah, I don't know. I think obviously, I think the last year and a half I've shown my potential to have these stats, but I just haven't. The stats haven't shown it. Obviously, I've created a lot of chances in the league. I haven't been able to score as many, but I just think the way we play this year just makes me show myself more. We're just very direct. We're very transitional, and it helps my game out a lot. I'm just glad to be hitting the back of the net more.
How important is it for you to be taking some of those chances as well, Jed? There's players in the A-League that get into positions like you do and don't always convert. You've found a bit of a knack for it this season, and including that goal against Adelaide as well from a freakish angle. And also some of your assists, like the early crosses into the box, your delivery's been fantastic as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a part of the game I've wanted to improve my finishing. I had a lot of chances last season. I just wasn't very clinical in front of goal, and this year I think I've had a lot more chances and I've just been able to bury them. I think it's just about confidence. The more game time I've playing, I've had a more consistent run of games this season. I think the more confidence and more consistent game time I've had, it's given me those chances. And yeah, obviously it's good to be scoring more goals.
And working with Mile Stojovski, I was fortunate to work with Mile a little bit in my career as well. He's very low key, he's very composed, and he's a good people person. How have you enjoyed working under him? Because he looks like he's gotten the best out of you.
Yeah, definitely. I actually had him in MPL the first year I signed there. So, I've had him for about 3.5 years now. And yeah, he's very quiet, but it's good. He knows what he's going to get from me. He doesn't tell me too much, just tells me to go out there, do my job, be consistent. I think that's what he's been asking the most of me, just being consistent. And, I'm still young and he knows that. But, if I'm just consistent, he knows the goals are going to come. He knows chances are going to come. And, yeah, it's good.
Jed, for a young player like yourself, putting up the kind of numbers you are, things get discussed around Socceroos. There's a squad being picked in March, obviously, that we're sure you'd like to be a part of. And also, we think you're off contract at the end of this season. So just wondering if you have a plan in terms of, what you want to do in these next couple of years and if there's a certain time that you'd like to make the leap over to Europe or maybe even Asia somewhere.
No plan at the moment. I'm just enjoying my football. Obviously, there's a bit of talk, but, I'm just going to keep playing with Macarthur. I love it there. And I'm just going to keep enjoying my football and, see what happens for sure.
And just finally, mate, you've got a game this Sunday against Newcastle Jets, a team that had the better of you 2-1 earlier in the season. What gives you confidence that the result will be a little bit different this time?
Yeah, that was obviously disappointing to lose at home against them, especially that was another game that we threw away. We had the lead, but we know we can beat any team in the league on our day. I think we just got to show up there, do our jobs, and we'll get the win. I think for sure.
Good luck for it, Jed. We look forward to watching you play, and the rest of what's to come for you for the next weeks and months, mate. It's exciting to see you blossom. So thanks for joining us.
Cheers, mate.
Thanks
Thanks
for
for
your
having me
time.
on. Cheers. See ya.
Good player, huh? Good kid too. It seems like
level-headed, which is always nice to see. So
the converting bit is important, huh? Like there's so many players who, as we said, get into those spots, but the thing, and hopefully you can start to do it consistently, is hit the back of the net.
Exactly. And it's not only the goal scoring, it's also, I think, I've touched on it before, I think his delivery into the box this season has been exceptional. I think it looks like it's been an instruction from the coaching staff too, because that early cross into the box is not something that many players take on, and he does it, and he does it really well. So it's great to see.
Yeah. So the team that beat them, Adelaide United, bit going on there. I mean, they look pretty good this season, to be honest. Consistent, steady, no dramas.
Exceeding expectations, I think. It must
For
be
sure.
said.
I don't think too many people expected them to be where they are at the moment, especially with the losses they have, but they've recruited well. The issue is on Sunday was the announcement of Mark Milligan leaving as their assistant coach. He's going to go join Pete Klimowski with the Malaysian national team. There's a few Aussies sort of congregating there for that project, which looks like an interesting one. The Crown Prince of Malaysia's involved. Timmy Cahill's floating around somewhere. So there's some big plans obviously being drawn up. But for me, I don't know what you think, Tommy, but I'm with Australian football, all our best people are going to leave. That's the idea, basically. We're trying to find them and get them to go to the highest possible level, and that's players and coaches. But I'm personally just a little bit concerned that maybe we're losing too many coaches from our systems. We've now got Millsy going to Malaysia with Pete Klimowski as a top coach. The last time we were here in this studio shooting this show, we were reeling from the news that Patrick Kisnorbo had left Melbourne Victory to be an assistant at Yokohama F. Marinos. Leah Blaney as well on Sunday left the Young Matildas to join Japan as a women's assistant for their national team. Teza Ante Milicic is coaching China. And it's good that they're moving on. But as I said, I'm just a little bit... Are we losing too many of them, do you think?
Well, I think the concerning thing is when a coach departs and goes to take up an assistant role having been a head coach. I think that's a little bit different to Millsy's one where, he was an assistant and now he has the opportunity to go and work with Pete Klimowski, who's, becoming in Asia a really highly respected coach. And I think that, they obviously have a relationship from the past in the national team. And I think Millsy, without having been a first team head coach yet, I think that this one's a little bit different to the other ones because, he'll probably see this as a really good developmental step before he does ultimately take his first job in the top spot or at a club. But, from an A-League perspective, hopefully after this role with the Malaysian, national team as an assistant, he can take an A-League head coaching role because I'm sure he'd be a fantastic manager.
I would have thought he would be probably the next cab off the rank for any A-League club, to be honest.
I'm surprised that the likes of Melbourne Victory, maybe they were, but weren't looking at him or he wasn't in the discussion because, anybody that's worked or played with Millsy or had him as a manager knows he's a natural leader. He was always going to become a coach and I think he's going to be a great one.
And that's the thing with him, people are concerned sometimes when ex-players jump into coaching too early and, don't do enough sort of apprenticeship gigs, so to speak, before they get the head coaching role. And I get that. Millsy is one who I would be less concerned about that because of the kind of person, the kind of player he is and the understanding of the game that he showed as a player. It seems to me if a club were to take a punt on him as a head coach, he'd be more likely to do well than other ex-players that early on.
Completely agree. And he's got a really good temperament. And, if you look at him as a player, he played so many positions. You could put him anywhere and he would have put in fantastic performances. So he shows great appreciation for all positions on the field. And ultimately, as a personality, he's a natural leader. I think that as a player, he was always the captain or vice-captain of the teams he played for. He is definitely going to be a good coach and I think he's definitely a big loss for Adelaide.
Yeah, a lost opportunity, I think, for any other A-League clubs who are looking for a head coach in the next little period, but hopefully again, eventually, like you said. Let's hear quickly now from Carl Viet, who spoke about, what it means for Adelaide United to lose his number one assistant.
Yeah, look, Mark's a very ambitious coach and an opportunity has come up for him, which he believes is the next step in his development as a coach. So, we are disappointed to lose him, especially where we are in the season and what we've done so far this year. But, what's best for Mark, he believes it's what's best for him. So, we shake hands and wish him all the best and, hopefully he... as I said, he'll definitely be a very good coach in the years to come.
There we go. Big loss for Adelaide, I think, as well, just in terms of, I guess, defensive organisation. Is probably what he had responsibility for. Like how, and you'd know far better than I would, but how important is a good assistant coach in terms of the makeup of a successful team? Someone who's maybe got a slightly different personality to the head coach, someone who brings something different. It's all sort of...
I think it depends a little bit on the head coach, but I think that in Adelaide, if you look at Millsy and how animated he was on the sidelines, he was always giving one-on-one instructions to players coming on. He was very involved, I think, tactically with how they set up as well. So I think in this situation, he's a massive loss. And sometimes you see an assistant coach is more there to, maybe more of a kind of, for moral support of these types of things and less active in the tactics. But I think tactically, Millsy was very involved at Adelaide.
Well, we'll find out, I guess, as we watch Adelaide play in the next few weeks, if there's something missing or things change. We'll see. But still plenty of accomplished people at that football club to fill his boots. So a watch on Adelaide United post-Millsy. Tommy, Western United, look, I feel for Perth Glory a little bit, the way they lost this game. I really feel for them because these guys, have been going through it. And to lose this game the way they did against Western United in this fashion, an injury time, absolute stunning bicycle kick. I mean, we will probably launch into the debate about this a little bit later, but for me, this is one of the best goals I've seen in the A-League. Circumstances, player as well, Jordan Lauton. I can't say I've heard his name too much before this. This was his 6th appearance for Western United, all off the bench. What a bloody moment.
It's unbelievable. You don't see goals like that in world football anywhere. And in that context of the game, such a late winner. The thing that really impressed me with it was, if you look at the kind of build up to the goal, the way and the kind of urgency he shows to get into the box. And, it's often you see midfielders kind of who would just sit back on the edge of the box and wait for the ball to potentially come out. But he takes a chance, he gets into the box, and then, with the ball behind him to pull off a finish like that was nothing short of remarkable, really.
And Western United as well, I think we may have whacked them a little bit earlier in the season. I don't know, it feels like we've whacked everyone at some point. But they weren't going great guns early on. They've now won 4 in a row, and they're doing it in ways that suggest that, good teams pick up results like that one. Do you know what I mean? When it looks like you might lose and you can just pull something out of the bag.
Exactly.
How do you feel about them just as a team at the moment? Because things seem to be in a good place.
If you look back towards early December, I think there was John Aloisi was really disappointed with one of their performances and gave the team a big rev up and, put them on notice in the post-game press conference, which was...
right, when he got double lynched.
Exactly. And since then, they've kind of, really kind of galvanised the squad and the players have answered his call and they've been a revelation since then, really. And they're a team that now is playing with a lot of confidence and, you just touched on it. Good teams find a way to win games, even if they don't always deserve to, and they're in a great run of form, and I think they're a team that nobody wants to come up against now.
Absolutely. Let's hear from John right now on that result and also Jordan Lauton's goal and red card as well, which we'll touch on in a sec.
When he threw his leg at it, I was thinking, it's probably not the right one to throw his leg at. And then it goes in the back of the net and you're just like, wow, that was... He'll remember this night forever. He made his debut last year. He's on a scholarship this year. He's a great kid that's just worked so hard to get his opportunity. He's been at our club for a couple of years now in our NPL system. Travels from Ballarat every day. When we're training with the NPL at 6 a.m, he's travelling an hour and a half from Ballarat. That's how much he wants it. So I'm so happy for him. And he'll also remember that he got a red card. So it's a bit of a funny night. Yeah, he apologised to me and I said, that's okay. If you score winners like that, you can take your top off again.
Very relaxed in the press conference there, which I liked.
Commuting from Ballarat every day as well as hard yakka, huh?
I know.
That shows commitment. But have you ever... So his second yellow for taking the shirt off obviously led to the red card. Yeah. You ever seen that before?
I don't
in
think
your
I
playing
have.
days?
I don't think I have, to be honest. John Aloisi just said he'll forgive him for doing it, but at the same time, I think that it's probably a little bit of a lesson for him as well. But don't take nothing away from the goal.
A good lesson to learn, I reckon. What a mad lesson. There's way worse lessons to learn than bloody scoring a worldie and then getting, your coach lets you off the hook for taking off your top, man. Happy days. Anyway, so what a goal, what a story. So good that Alan Stajic weighed in on this as well after the Wanderers game against Melbourne Victory, just talking up, I guess, the moment, what it represents about this league and where it's at as well.
Probably for me, best goal in the history of the A-League in terms of moment and quality last night. So I was just staggered by the quality of the finish. And, again, I know it's on social media how good our league actually is, but we need to promote the facts. Like, there's so many kids playing. Melbourne City put out a team of kids the other day with virtually a championship-winning team in the grandstands, and they could dominate a whole game. So we've got so much talent in this country, so much quality in this league, and a lot of good kids coming through, and they're getting an opportunity at various clubs now. So, and I think we should be proud of our league. I think we should be promoting our league. I think there's too much negativity around our league. I think there's too much vitriol on social media about our league, and I think it's incumbent upon all of us, from the fans to the media on social media, actually be positive about our league and look at the great moments that happen. And if that was a goal in the Premier League, that would win the Puskás Award, especially in context of the moment as well, let alone the quality and a kid coming on. So, I think tonight was a good occasion for the league as well, and I think we all need to build on that as a league to keep growing the game.
Agree with all of that. Don't know about Puskás though.
I think that's one step too far, but at the same time, I think that's really refreshing to see, a manager from a different side make comments like that and have such a kind of big picture view. And I completely agree with Alan Stadgich. I do think that a lot of Australian or A-League football fans do have a little bit of like an inferiority complex, which I don't think is kind of fair or right. But at the same time, it's great to see him make those comments, and hopefully we can all start to take that on board.
Is it the best goal we've seen though? So when I think about great A-League goals, there's been heaps, more than we probably appreciate. But I think everyone's clear clubhouse leader prior to this one was Riley McGree's scorpion kick, right?
Yeah.
I think this is better. I think this is better because of the situation in the match, to win a game in the 95th minute, I'm pretty sure, of injury time, to seal a comeback win away from home, by a kid who no one ever heard of before, and has just had his life sort of like, as John Aloisi said, he's going to remember that forever. That is genuinely a life-changing moment for this kid.
I think it's in the same kind of area or same kind of breath as the McGree goal, but I think the McGree goal was more freakish. I think that's not a goal. I've never seen another goal like the McGree goal in anywhere in the world. So I think that one was more outlandish, and for me that one still stands out. As soon as you said the question, that was the first one that came to my mind, but this one I would think is probably in the top three.
And that's why I don't think it's Puskás worthy. Because unfortunately the precedent has been set where if Riley McGree didn't win the Puskás Award the year he did, which he didn't, I think Mo Salah won it for a fairly standard Mo Salah goal.
That he scores every week.
Like if he's not winning it, no Australian will ever win it.
I agree.
And usually the Puskás is, or should be, in my opinion, for those freakish, weird,
that's what
oh my God, I've never seen that before sort of goals. You do see bicycle kicks quite semi-regularly, but you don't see him that late in a game by a kid no one's heard of to win it in a comeback away. Like,
it's
for me,
true.
that was all absolute gold.
Agree.
So, good on you, Jordan Lauton. Tommy, let's shift to another part of Melbourne Victory. As we mentioned, I distinctly remember the feeling of being told while Daniel McBreen and I were shooting the show that Patrick Kusnorbo was gone, and it took us some time to get our heads around it. We didn't know what was going to happen next. We didn't know if they would immediately move to appoint someone or bring someone in like Mark Milligan. It looks like Arthur Dillers, his assistant coach, long-time assistant coach in the A-League, is going to get his chance at least to the end of the season. Hasn't gone too well so far. 4 games, no wins, 3 draws, 1 loss. For a team that I think we all agree were, probably one of the undisputed top 2-3 teams in the league. They're still creating chances. They're just probably not taking full advantage of the positions they're getting into. I don't know. What do you think about where they're at?
I think the criticisms of him have been a little bit unfair, because I think it's different. Often when there's a new manager that comes in, it's because the team's doing poorly and you can kind of implement your own ideas. But to take over a team that was going really well and flourishing, you don't want to tweak too much. And I think if you look at their drop in results, a lot of it's been down to individual errors. If you look at the red card against Sydney FC, if you look at the game on the weekend, the square ball across the box, these are moments that they weren't doing earlier in the season, and I don't think that's down to the manager. These are just individual errors that have cost them. And also, they have the highest XG in the league, which I'm not a huge fan of that stat, but it does kind of indicate how many chances they are creating. They haven't really been taking advantage of them, and I think that, for Piscopo and Azani, for the amount of good positions they're getting into, and Machach, they need to start taking advantage and scoring more goals.
Definitely. I want to see more from Machach, personally. I think he's got it in him to dominate games more than he is. He just sort of throws himself around sometimes, but not enough end product there. What's encouraging about Arthur Dillers is, apparently he has a good, strong relationship with Daniel Arzani that goes back to his junior days, which is good. So he's in a position to hopefully get the best out of Arzani, which is good for everyone. And Bruno's starting again, which is good. Should have happened from the start, in my opinion. And if he's starting games, that XG problem which you may or may not agree exists or whatever, will hopefully get solved because the guy knows where the back of the net is.
Agree, and I think that there's too much quality in that squad. They'll be there or thereabouts at the end of the season, and there's been nothing to indicate from since the new manager's taken over that they're going to become worse than they were beforehand. I think it's just been circumstances.
One thing that may indicate that is that it's not just talk. I have it on good authority that Jason Geria is leaving the club. He's going to go to a club in Japan, which is a great move for him. And also for the Socceroos. It means he's going to be playing at a higher level for this next sort of 3-month period leading into the March window, which is really important now that Harry Sutar's out with an Achilles injury.
Yep.
So there's a issue there at the back for the Socceroos that hopefully Jason will be in a really good space by the time that window comes around. But for Victory, that's a problem, right? He's a massive leader, not just sort of in terms of the defence, but also just in general. He's experienced, he's an excellent player and a sort of level-headed guy.
Well, I think they have so many attacking options that if they were to have an injury, we saw Douglas Costa get injured and Sydney FC have many kind of like-for-like replacements lined up, or not like-for-like, but they have enough quality in replacements. I think Melbourne Victory is similar. In the attacking third, they have so much depth that they can kind of carry 1 or 2 injuries, but I think you take Jason Geria out of that defence, if that move comes to fruition, which it sounds like it will, I think there's a big hole there. And I think that changes the narrative. And I think a lot of other teams will fancy their chances against Victory a lot more without Jason Geria in that team.
Depends what they do in the January transfer window, which we're going to talk more about that next week.
Yep.
But a few little tidbits I can talk about now. Thomas Deng, who is off contract in Japan, he's a free agent, is apparently being chased by Victory and Western Sydney Wanderers.
Right.
Not the only 2 teams that could do with an experienced defender at the back who's Aussie. Marley Francois is going to be confirmed by Auckland by the end of the week, I'm told, which is never seen him play, but heard a lot about him in terms of, and his brother as well, as promising young players. I think he was with Bristol City. So we'll see if he can sort of rebuild his career in Auckland. And then Perth Glory are going to sign 2 players from straight out of J1, apparently Japanese players, which can't hurt them.
Yeah, that's right. And I think it's always nice to see, Socceroos or fringe Socceroos come back and kind of re-kickstart their career. And Jason Geria is one who's done that. He's always been, without being in the squad too much, on the fringes of the Socceroos, and obviously came back from Japan a few years ago and has gone from strength to strength. So he fully deserves that move overseas if it comes about. For Victory, it's big shoes to fill for anybody who comes in.
You mentioned Douglas Costa before and the injury, which is a real shame for Sydney FC. He was, as you said, looking like really good, finally starting to get to the sort of space that we would expect him to be in. But we talked him up so much earlier in the season, and I feel like it wasn't a mistake.
Yeah.
The coach is still, for me, excellent.
Yeah.
The squad is excellent. They should be in a better position than they are in the ladder. What would you say has gone wrong here? They've won 1 of their last 5, which to me is unfathomable given the quality on hand here in the dugout and also on the pitch.
Well, when you see them at their best this season, and I think of round 1 against the Wanderers, when they're playing with high intensity, they're, I think, the standout team in the competition. But the inconsistency's been a real issue, and I think that there's been a lot said about them defensively and how they've looked very vulnerable and he might need to change up tactically. But I think a lot of the reason they've had a lot of the ball in the games is the way they defend. But I actually think in recent weeks the intensity of their front third and the players not making runs off the ball, it's all been very much going through the motions. There's no urgency. They haven't really showed urgency until they've gone behind, and we saw against Adelaide and Newcastle Jets in the last 10 minutes they look like scoring every couple of minutes, but I think, why aren't they showing that intensity and that desperation from the first minute of the game? Because I think if they do that, then they can blow teams off the park. But I think that's been the real issue for Ufuk Talay and something he'll have to address quite quickly.
Bit of a worry that the hamstring goes in such an innocuous sort of moment. Hopefully he gets back sooner rather than later, not just for Sydney's sake, but the league's sake. It's so much fun watching him play.
Yeah.
But as I think we both alluded to, if any team can absorb the loss of a player like him, it's Sydney, right? They've got so many good young players in wide positions that if one doesn't step up in one game, hopefully another does.
And you've seen in the recent games when Kucharski and Quintal come on, they've actually made the difference for them. And obviously it's a huge loss, and he's been, probably the standout player of the last few weeks, Costa. But at the same time, these young players they're more than ready to step up and fill the shoes, I think.
They got Perth and Central Coast next. 6 points, surely. They need to.
I think if we're going to keep discussing Sydney FC as title contenders, they need to get 6 points out of these 2 games. It's getting to that point. I think that if they play anything capable, even close of being to their best, then they win comfortably.
Yep. Tommy, mailbag segment. We threw the call out on Twitter
Yep.
I'm never calling it X for some suggestions from soccer Twitter. There's still soccer Twitter, in my opinion. Next week, please put any questions you have for us in the comment section on YouTube where you're watching this. That would be great. We'll rip into them for sure. We picked the one from Mr. Rayo. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Yep.
He asked, training session on Christmas Day, yes or no? And what's the worst Tommy has pulled up to training? Obviously, this is in reference to Mark Jackson of the Mariners talking about a player who didn't come back well, I guess you could say, from Christmas Day celebrations with friends and family, and possibly took some liberties, some extra liberties going on there. Look, man, you're professional footballers. Just have a session in the morning on Christmas Day.
It depends on the when you're playing, obviously. Like, it's, you know, if there's no game around Christmas, then it's just
have time off.
Course. But at the same time, I think that people can sometimes underestimate the mental side of the game, and, you know, having Christmas off can sometimes give a bit of a galvanising effect, and I think we've seen that in other examples as well. I think Mile Stojovski gave, MacArthur some as many days off as made sense over Christmas, and I think the players responded quite well to that. So as a player, I was always one where, you know, going into a game, I didn't care how many times I'd train that week. I wanted to feel good physically and mentally, and obviously you don't want to see players kind of take advantage of that. But I think that, you know, the coach could have disciplined him individually. It's not like the whole team needed to be punished for that one individual mistake. So I'm all 4 days off on Christmas.
I bet you are.
I am. And in terms of turning up.
Good. I was hoping I could see you potentially squirming out of this. Not happening with me.
There is one. So when I think I had good reason for it though. So when I was at FC Utrecht, we qualified for the Europa League, and we all went out and celebrated after. And I thought the next day was just going to be recovery. So I was celebrating with the whole team. But I thought the next day was just going to be recovery, and it wasn't. I turned up to training, I hadn't slept a wink, and obviously been out, you know, doing whatever, drinking and stuff.
Whatever,
and we ended up having to do a forest run for an hour.
Oh.
And it was a bad enough experience for me to never do it again, let me put it that way.
I can't imagine anything worse. You've kicked on, you've turned up, you thought you're chilling, you thought you're recovering, and you've got to run through a freaking forest.
Exactly. And if there was one time, I thought it was acceptable though it wasn't like I did it behind anyone's back. I did it everyone knew what was happening, and I wasn't the only one, obviously. So that was my worst experience probably.
Unprofessional, Tommy. You're better than that. Let's go into extra time, rip through a few quick things. We'll start with Juan Mata, who, spoken a lot about him again, is starting now for the Wanderers in the wake of Dylan Scaluna doing his ACL. Unfortunately, he was playing really well for him, but that's opened up a way. I think Stadge is still trying to figure out what to do with him.
Yep.
Do you think they're getting it right? Should he still be starting?
I think there's still, I think you're bang on. I think there's still questions about how they should best use him. But for me, and we've discussed it many times, I think he should be starting. I think that he gives that sprinkling of quality. Obviously, there's question marks around him physically, but I think they have enough young and fit players around him to kind of cater for that. I think that once they do find the right setup, then there's no question that he should be in the starting lineup.
Yeah. I think they've got to have him a little bit further up the field, probably more often, because he showed his quality in the moment for his goal.
Yep.
That's there. I guess try and use that. Having said that, though, and this will get us nicely into the next question, they do have a lot of attacking quality already there.
Yeah.
The golden boot race in the A-League is very interesting at the moment. So you've got Costa Barbarouses and Nick Milanovic tied for first, and then you've got 6 players tied for second beneath them. So it's one of those seasons where it's open. There's no Barisha, there's no McLaren.
Exactly. Yeah.
Who like if I got to ask you for a tip right now, who you liking?
I think Borello. Because I think if you look at him, he hasn't really relied on service. If you look at the goals he's scored, a lot of them have been off his own back. He scored a free kick, or it's been him showing desperation in the box. He can score all types of goals, and I think that Wanderers are kind of finding another gear now, and they're playing better. I think he'll have a lot of chances to score more goals, and he's my tip for Golden Boot.
Mine's Milanovic. I like the cut of his jib, and I think he's a really, really strong chance for Socceroos potentially in March with the left foot.
Yeah.
As well, that fits in very nicely to the system that Tony Popovic has got there, and maybe coming on for a Craig Goodwin or something in the second half of a game that they're chasing. Who knows?
Yep.
But he's got a huge future. Mario Balotelli for the A-League, yes or no?
100% yes. I mean, the headlines make themselves really. I mean, good and bad and everything in between. But
I'm somewhat responsible for this because I did tweet that. I'd made some inquiries. He's now a free agent, apparently. He's left Genoa. I did ask people close to him whether he'd received any offers from the A-League at the moment. He hasn't. I'd heard he was floated in the off-season.
Yep.
No one wanted to touch him. It's disappointing. If there's any A-League owners watching this right now, please just sign him. It would be so good.
It would be good.
It doesn't matter if it's a disaster. You've just got to have it, I think. Just my opinion. Wellington Phoenix, Tommy, in a bit of trouble, actually. Lost 4 of their last 5. Giancarlo Italiano, is he starting to feel the heat a little bit?
I think so. If you look at his stint so far at the Phoenix, this is probably the roughest patch he's had, and they seem to be in a bit of a hole. I'm not sure he has all the answers right now. So his press conferences have become a little bit more prickly. On the field's not going well, but I think they have enough quality to get out of it. But for sure, he's feeling the heat.
Yep, agree.
Yep.
All right, that's full time. Happy days. Thank you, Tommy.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for watching us. We'll see you next week.